You're unable to tell the decade by the landscape. At every turn, suspicious characters, actors, musicians, filmmakers, con artists, and models. Maybe you're down on your luck cop. Maybe you're searching for yourself. Maybe this wild version of life and make-believe actually exists. Or maybe, just maybe, you're in a Tom DiCillo movie.
Many stories have been told of man's search for meaning in his life, but none of them quite like this one.
What better place to start than with Johnny Suede if I plan on covering one of my favorite film directors' entire live-action filmography. Tom DiCillo is responsible for many of my favorite films growing up, and he got his start in film kind of being Jim Jarmusch's cinematographer, which I found out at a young age as well. But through his own films, he sort of created a spectacular team of character actors that got to shine in ways that their peers could only dream of. Actors like Steve Buscemi, Catherine Keener, and in today's film, a pre-superstar Brad Pitt in one of his greatest roles to date.
Johnny's life had no meaning. It seemed to be going nowhere. Then one night, meaning struck him in the form of black suede shoes.
Johnny Suede tells the tale of an overzealous rock and roll fan getting by in a wasteland version of reality with dreams of becoming a rock star. Something he sees as a real possibility when a pair of suede shoes magically drops from the sky. An event that leads to his stage name, Johnny Suede.
My name's Suede. Jan Suede. Johnny Suede.
You're kidding me, right?
The origins of the film go back to 1985 when DiCillo was attending film school with the likes of Spike Lee and others, who would walk to and from school daily witnessing the alternative characters of this city. A time in New York with a big resurgence in punk and rockabilly and new wave and, the style being pompadours and slick back yet silly looking variants of humans. And, he was fascinated by the rockabilly trend in Japan as well. All of these things kind of came together to create a fictional character that he called Johnny Suede. DiCillo would go on to perform as the made-up character Johnny Suede, based off the people that he knew and would see in the streets and whatnot. And when DiCillo had performed enough shorts, he would turn it into a one-man show, eventually turning into a script that impressed his fellow NYU alum and friend Jim Jarmusch, who encouraged DiCillo to keep at it, which he did, luckily for us all. DiCillo, being a resourceful guy apparently, found funding from film grants and selling certain rights to Germany and South Africa. So now with the funding secured, the search for New York actors started and ended immediately as they were unable to find the two leads in New York. Something that took DiCillo to Los Angeles, where he eventually would see Catherine Keener and Brad Pitt in action. And it was with their initial auditions when DiCillo knew he had his stars. Keener at the time was mainly working bit parts in television and had just made the transition to film, so to speak. But DiCillo stated it was her curiosity that earned her the part. How she could look both calm and on the verge of just losing it at the same time. And she really, she has always demanded the screen, so thank you, Tom DiCillo, for giving us Catherine Keener. As for Brad Pitt, well, he was kind of hot shit from Thelma and Louise and was well known for that role. And he had mainly done TV as well, like 21 Jump Street and Growing Pains. And Brad Pitt was in some films, though, like Cutting Class. Fucking great movie. And you guys remember, what was that movie called? Across the Tracks? But Johnny Suede would be his first real starring role.
You should have seen me the other night, man. I was like a wild man.
What are you doing?
She showed me where that little button is inside there.
That is not it.
You didn't know where that was, man?
You feel that?
Yeah, I knew where it was. But now, man, I can find it in the dark if I have to. And that is a good thing for a guy to know.
As for DiCillo, as stated, this was his first feature film. And we see many hallmarks or, DiCilloisms, if you will, early on here. One thing he's great at is atmosphere and set dressing. These bare rooms and barren walls and the slummy kind of apartments, with the minimal necessities at hand, like the one featured as Johnny's home. Well, that kind of look pops up again later in his other films, like the underrated Double Whammy. The showbiz themes found in his work show up here in the form of Johnny starting a band, which features Samuel L. Jackson, by the way. And Johnny proceeds to have naive dreams of stardom, making for some of the best sequences here, as the film not only has an original score by Link Ray, but also has some amazing music here, performed by Brad Pitt himself.
You're just a girl with the look on your face, nothing much more than that. I'll find another girl to take your place, and I'll do it in seconds flat.
And the film has one of my all-time favorite on-screen characters in Freak Storm, played here flawlessly by Nick Cave, who was based on a miscreant that Chillo saw one morning who kind of just collapsed onto some trash after a long night. And it's really these kind of experiences that seem to form nearly every scene in the film. The story feels like a fish out of water film at times, though, as Johnny Suede is just so misunderstood by nearly every character in the film, to a degree where you don't really question any relationships when, well, maybe you should, you know? Everyone, to his best friend, to his bandmates, to his girlfriend, you know, just, they don't get him. It's been well documented that DiCillo was supposedly disappointed in Pitt's performance here. He said that Pitt played him a little too dull-brained in the end, which, you know, I disagree with, as his naivety here and honest confusion really makes for quite the perspective in this otherwise wacky world. A subdued take on the insane, if you will. And his poor, low-life kind of lifestyle would wreck any regular person, but not Johnny, no sir. It's not even an obstacle for this guy. Johnny is one of the weirdest characters I've ever seen in any movie.
Brad Pitt is Johnny Suede, a smooth comedy.
I love you, Johnny.
Thanks.
And DiCillo also despised the narrative voiceovers added in the film in post from the producers and such, something he never wanted to do, he never planned on it, and he remedied this in his director's cut. But I also disagree with that, as the voiceover really does add to the fantasy kind of storybook take on the material we got with the original release, making the black comedy aspect here even funnier and, well, bleaker. I, for one, have always wondered what happened to Johnny Suede. He was one hell of a songwriter. I mean, something probably came out of that, right? I don't know. He was kind of a dick. Sadly, the film wouldn't get much promotion and was better received overseas, even though Pitt himself does remember it fondly.
Why did you choose this movie? I know it was shot before Cool World as well as Thelma and Louise. What made you do this?
Because of the writing, Tom DiCillo's writing. I think it's brilliant.
How long did it take to do the pompadour in your hair?
A couple hours. Not pleasant. No.
What was the funnest part about the movie?
Just working with Tom. No, really. I'd like to work with the guy again. He's real good. Real sharp.
Was this different for you compared to Thelma and Louise and Cool World?
Well, sure it was. There's a guy who knows what he's doing versus a guy who has no idea what he's doing. Thelma versus Johnny.
And Johnny Suede's theatrical failure, well, it really was the fault of producer Harvey Weinstein, as he, or nobody, just like Johnny, understood the film. However, since it won Best Picture at the Locarno Film Fest, Weinstein bought the film without even seeing it, something he had never done before. And Harvey decided to wait until Pitt became more of a star to quietly release the film to bank on his name, which is just stupid. I mean, Johnny Suede is the perfect indie film of the time, and would have probably been better having Pitt, you know, in the film and marketed as so before his initial stardom, or at least I think so. I don't know, maybe not. But really, I mean, how the hell would you market this movie? It's so weird. And Johnny Suede has been a favorite of mine since I was a little kid. It is largely underrated. It really is. And I feel the film does have a legacy. Like, you know, when most people see the image of the film or the cover, it doesn't even matter if they haven't seen the movie. Most of them will mention the cartoon character Johnny Bravo, a young, good-looking rock and roll enthusiast with a dull brain. Yeah, there's no way that Johnny Suede didn't inspire Johnny Bravo. In the arsenal of DiCillo's films, this makes for the perfect debut. And while DiCillo would, you know, go on to attempt over and over to get his next script made, it took some time. And instead, we got more classic films from the man. Seriously, Tom DiCillo may be one director where I love every work that he's done. Although, I've only seen his live-action films, as he's done many documentaries as well. I will be going over all those live-action films, though, so let me know in the comments what you'll want to see next. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like, and leave me a comment, goddammit. And until next time, staunch gang, don't forget to rewind.